Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our divisional round coverage here at the Lions Grid. Jeffrey, it is a first time ever for us Lions fans. Number one seed hosting a game here at Ford Field against the Commanders. How you feeling this morning, Jeffrey?
I'm feeling good. Divisional round, arguably the best round of the playoffs, right? We got rid of the chaff with the wild cards, all the guys who walked in backwards into the playoffs, they're gone. These are all fairly good teams. Well, I mean, I think, there's definitely a tier list to be made,
Mhm.
but I feel like most of the chaff's gone. We're going to see some good football.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I know we were talking about that being the one knock against potentially expanding the playoffs last
Mhm.
week was the fact that some of the teams that did get in were coming in on some pretty epic losing streaks, which they continued during the wild card weekend,
Mhm.
and so we definitely seem like the final eight teams here definitely seems like for the most part, I would say you could make an argument that maybe two of them don't have very good odds, but the other six teams definitely wouldn't necessarily be surprising seeing any of these teams standing at the end.
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to see any games decided in the first half for
Hi,
sure.
birthday girl.
But oh, there's a birthday girl.
Oh
Whose
yeah,
birthday? Who are we shouting out?
it is Riley Ann's second birthday, so she's over here. If you hear any Mickey
Happy
Mouse
birthday.
Playhouse in the background, that might be her.
Well,
Yeah,
happy birthday. Hopefully we can give her a birthday victory tonight.
yeah, hopefully, yeah, exactly. Get that get that Riley luck helping power us to a victory here tonight against the Commanders. But Jeffrey, let's kick it off with that because obviously we're a Lions based show here, and so our even though it's I think going to be a pretty good weekend for football in general. Of course, we have a vested interest in the outcome of the 8 o'clock game tonight. So
Mhm.
uh, let's talk about it, Jeffrey. I mentioned there's a little bit of history here between the Commanders and the
Ancient
Lions.
history.
I mean, it feels like it. Don't say that because I mean, I know there's a lot of white in the hair, but it was 1992 when everything went down. Uh, but before we went on that playoff win drought, Jeffrey, the Commanders were the team that sort of sent us into that oblivion. Of course, we've now risen up. The Lions have, of course, won playoff games last season and are looking to be the only NFC North team to get a playoff win this season. But Jeffrey, first we got to get through Jaden Daniels and the Commanders here.
Yes, we do. We are 8.5 point favorites at this current moment, according to DraftKings. I think the you bring the point up about history. At that point, the Commanders weren't even named the Commanders, so we're talking about we are looking at a completely different kind of Commander situation at this point because I think they kind of mirror us a few years ago. I think they're overachieving a bit, right? Like they're definitely in the playoffs, but they've come in, they've kind of built a culture under Dan Quinn here. I was reading an article earlier this week about how he kind of has implemented almost kind of like a Dan Campbell style of culture there. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't done that like in his first stint here with the Falcons or like when he was
Mhm.
defensive coordinator with the Cowboys, but just like people really like working for him. And I just think that's an interesting tie in here because also, right, they are are almost following our model, at least from like roster building and this team going, because they're aggressive on fourth downs also, right? They are kind of establishing a core like we were several years ago, kind of being young, hungry, but like now we're here working on some house money. So um, they're I think they've got a lot of motivation, kind of some boost going on here.
Yeah, they definitely. I think the speed at which they have turned things around, and not only from a record perspective, but also just like the amount. I know their points per game are like way up, the most in the league this year, and then their defense, the points given up, is the best increase from last season to this season. So they're a lot better on offense. They're a lot better on defense. You got Scary Terry. You got Zach
Mhm.
Ertz, who is having himself played those years out in Arizona after being with Philly there for a while, but he's sort of having a a renaissance himself there with the Commanders. He's definitely found a good role on that team. Um, and yeah, it really seems like this Commanders team does have quite a bit to offer. Of course, they also have an interesting backfield. Obviously Jaden Daniels is something you have to consider with their running game, but they also have Austin Eckler, who is back from injury and not only can be impactful in the running game, but also coming out of the backfield and catching passes, something he excels at, and we've seen since he's returned to the team, him being contributing there. Brian Robinson running the ball as well. So offense, they're good. Defense, the defensive line, it definitely had looked more impressive in the past. They've kept that interior of the defensive line. They have Payne and there are other guys there that are pretty solid. It used to be super scary when they had not only that interior defensive line, but they also had Montez Sweat and Chase Young.
Yeah.
You had the middle, you had the edge. Of course, as part of they moved some of those edge pieces and haven't necessarily got in elite pass rusher yet at the moment, but they have done a pretty good job, all things considered, of sort of retooling here on the fly. A lot better than a lot of teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think overall with their defense, I think their linebackers are kind of the stars of their defense, both from being all pros. I think you're right. Like with kind of that interior attack, it's been kind of difficult to replicate at least what that pressure package would have been with Chase and Sweat on there, right? Um, but they have turned it on. At least they're playing a lot better than what they looked like in the beginning of the season. But I think it's going to be a problem because they're going to have to rely on those only two all-pro linebackers, and everybody else is going to have to really step up on the defense because we just simply have so many weapons for them to have to deal with.
Yeah, and I know one of the weak points for them has been their secondary. They did trade for Lattimore to try and help with that. As you mentioned, he was going back and forth with Mike Evans last week, and of course they have history.
He turns into a Super Saiyan against Mike Evans, though.
Now he's got to go against St. Brown and J-Mo, and so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And Top852 here on Twitch pointing out former Lion Zach Ertz.
You're right.
He was on the roster, so that is true.
God. Oh man, how long was he on the roster with Dan Campbell? Was
he was just here for last year's playoff run. So we had the Sam Laporta injury, Brock Wright got hurt. I forget the other tight end's name, but we were down to practice squad tight ends, and so they brought in Zach Ertz because he was on. He'd gotten released from the Cardinals last season. And,
that's right. It was with the Cardinals first, right?
It gave me a lot. I thought he would potentially play a bigger role in the because it was we brought him in right before we played the 49ers. But he didn't make too much of a splash there, but he's certainly
that's why I was like, man, I knew he was. Good point, Tom.
Yeah, and then Mytho Hippo Arts chiming in. That's a cute guest appearance there. Of course, Riley popping in. I'm sure she'll be back at some point. She hears me talking in here. She'll wander back in.
I mean, it's her birthday. She can pretty much do whatever she wants.
Exactly. It's her birthday. She can do whatever she desires. But Jeffrey here, we've talked a lot about the Commanders. Certainly respect the team. I think Jaden Daniels is having a stellar rookie season. I think ultimately, if I was guessing, I would say he probably brings home the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. I think he's going to get that wrapped up. But
you think it's a QB bias against Mr. Brock Bowers over there in Vegas?
I do think so. And on the one hand, you would think it would be if you're given a plus or minus, you think it would be a positive multiplier. The fact that the Raiders were so bad this season and that he had to do it with multiple quarterbacks and he still had this type of production.
Man,
but at the same time, he was the only he was really the only bright spot on that Raiders roster. So the only thing they were able to accomplish really through the offense was him. And then it's funny too. There was also a couple good games from Amir Abdullah, the former Lions running back, popping up there in Las Vegas.
He was a key waiver wire pickup in one of the fantasy football leagues I was in this past year. Someone picked him up right at the right time, and it got him a couple playoff wins. So yeah, he was cracking it.
It's a strange timeline we live in. Where in 2024, Amir Abdullah is popping in and having fantasy football
And
impact.
JMO, like the anime swag, where is he? He should be here for our run. We should sign him. Where's his ass?
The
Get
Saints
on
should just
our
cut him and
roster.
just bring him in. Just
Yeah,
he could be
yeah,
that 12th guy on the bench, just stoling out the high
yeah,
five. He still gets a ring, but hey, he contributes to the vibe, and
absolutely. He was a part of this rebuild.
absolutely.
That us taking out the Packers at the end of the season, ending Aaron Rodgers' whole thing, that was, I feel like, one of the like pivotal kind of just like pillars of this entire experience we've had from the beginning of Dan Campbell's career to right now. For sure.
I
Defining win right there.
I agree. It was definitely a turning point in the culture of this team, right? Like to go into Lambeau, to get a win like that, to knock them out of the playoffs, and to play spoiler to a future Hall of Famer's
Com-
career there, wrapping
Coming
up the
off of
Packers.
starting one and
Boom.
six, like they had to have a press conference in the middle of the year saying, "We're good. We know, we know the record, but we got to trust the process." And then week 8, we just started popping off, and nobody really wanted to play us. It was only Carolina of all teams who kind of had a record rushing day against us one time, one week that kind of killed it. But like nobody wanted to play us towards the end of the season. I mean, we were we were tough as nails. And I think back to even if you remember the the show that they do like during the
Hard
preseason,
Knocks.
Hard Knocks, when they did Hard Knocks with the Lions. There's this scene in there where he kind of stops everybody and he's like, look, guys, I have a plan for you all. And like, I know I'm doing a lot more, like he was doing a lot more full padded practice going at it kind of thing.
Mhm.
And he was kind of explaining kind of just like things to the players. And he was just kind of like out in the field. It was like preseason or something like that. And he's like, look, like we're doing all this stuff now. And then like in weeks 1 through 4, like things might not work. It might be hard, but like once we get our system down in week 8, he said week 8, I think he's like in week 8, once we start getting everything together, that is when we will see how well like all this preparation we're doing now is. And it's just crazy that he said that and then boom, kind of happened. So I don't know, man. There's some magic behind this team.
Do you think he has some latent prophetic abilities? Because there was also, the game earlier this season where he said we just need to get a couple turnovers here at the end of
Yeah,
half
that's
to,
a
and
while
then
you
sure, just as he said it, from his mouth to action, Carlton Davis was able to get that interception. So
It's crazy. It's crazy. And I think it's just I think it's a good story. I think I was looking through kind of the social media and kind of just like articles that kind of get aggregated together, and they're talking about the viewership even this year of just like the national viewership of just NFL teams and games and kind of
mhm.
thing. And the Lions were leading the way. Like people really like watching this team, right? And it does help that we're good now. We're getting more prime time juice, that kind of thing, right? But like there's a lot of just like collective support for it. It's just great. It just feels good to be in the situation here.
Yeah, I know the most expensive tickets this weekend for the divisional round are the Washington Commanders, Detroit Lions down there at Ford Field. And James Jones, welcome to the show here on YouTube, and see y'all tonight. Good luck.
Yes.
Uh, Going to be again the game down at Ford Field starting at 8 o'clock tonight, Jeffrey.
Mhm.
But I mean, Jeffrey, we know that between Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, this team has performed so well, both offensively and defensively, that those two assistant coaches are getting plenty of looks around the league for the vacant head coaching positions. Uh, this team is definitely coming in. I think, as you mentioned, was it 8.5 points they're currently favored on FanDuel? You were saying there.
Yep.
All right, so I know they are they're the most favored team of the 4 matchups this weekend, and so there's a lot of expectation here, Jeffrey. But I think one of the things that has definitely been different about this era of Lions football has been them not shying away from expectations and them actually delivering on them and in these big opportunities. So I'm definitely feeling pretty confident heading into this game here. Um, I definitely I'm not expecting them to blow out the Commanders by any means, and I could see this easily becoming a shootout potentially here between the two teams. But I definitely like our chances here, Jeffrey. We're getting Knuckles back to go with Sonic. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what sort of exactly what sort of effort David Montgomery is going to be able to give us. I know he's been rehabbing that knee injury, but it's definitely going to feel at least good to have him back out there on the field.
Yeah,
Uh,
it gives the Commanders something else to prepare for, right? Not by in any means like in Jameer Gibbs without Montgomery there having the being the every down workhorse back, right? He shined in that role, right? So I think he has a whole bunch of different skill set stuff that we do. Just taking advantage of his skill set, and it gives so much to worry about. Now they have the possibility of also having this wrecking ball of a man to also now can do some of the same stuff that Jameer Gibbs can do because he's such a great running back, right? So it makes you have to think about things. It puts even more pressure on their star linebackers to kind of have to execute the run defense, right? So it's got to be them and that interior for the Commanders here. But yeah, I think I think our running back our running game is the most dangerous in the NFL. Obviously props to the Ravens. I think that is a very scary combo with.
Hey, don't forget Saquon. Don't
Well, yeah,
forget
with
Saquon.
Saquon. We'll get to Saquon. We'll get to Saquon. But yeah, I think it gives them something to prepare for. Do you happen to know Zeitler's and Arnold's, Terrion Arnold's and Zeitler are guards availability? I'm pretty sure they're not playing, but
So I believe Arnold will be available. Zeitler is out of this game. He
okay,
is ruled
gotcha,
out. So we're
gotcha.
Zeitler's out, O'Connor's out, and Rakestraw is questionable for the game on the official report. And then on the Commander side of things, Jordan Maggie, their linebacker's out with a hamstring injury. Then they have Malik Walker, illness questionable. And then their tight end, Colston Yankoff, which is a tremendous last name, is questionable with a hamstring
That is
injury.
an awesome name. What's his first name?
Colston
Yankov.
Colston Yankov.
That is going to be my next character. When I play D&D next, whenever I get a campaign going, that's going to be the name of my next character. That's fantastic. I'm writing that down.
It's pretty spectacular. And James commenting here, a Washington fan, nothing but respect for your team. The last time I saw both of a good was 1991, and we talked about this game a little bit earlier, Jeff. That 1991 NFC Championship game. It always throws me off, a little bit when looking back at things because, it was 1992 when we lost that game, but it was the 1991 season with just how the season.
Right. Yeah, it always throws me off. I prefer the format if we're talking about rules and stuff. I prefer the format where they do like the 91-92 kind of thing. So I'm just like, oh yeah, because if the season's not within a year, you got to bookmark it, man. But rant off there.
I agree. It makes more sense because you are playing games in 91 and 92.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
But to the point, and welcome James Jones. Appreciate you joining you. But to the point, I mean, the Commanders are in a completely different situation here, and it looks like they have their quarterback in lockstep here. This is the franchise guy. He's been playing fantastic football. To your point about him getting the nod for Offensive Player of the Year. And I went on a bit of a fourth down dive because I think for this game to be spicy, there needs to be some fourth down variance because I think both of these teams, obviously us, we go for fourth downs when it is advantageous, and that's most of the time kind of thing. I think I love what we do, and I think I trust in the decision-making process. I know Dan Campbell got some flack for the NFC Championship game last year because we ended up losing by a field goal. We went for it twice and didn't. Those two fourth down conversions that we didn't make ultimately cost us the game, right? So he was getting a lot of flack, at least for that. For me, one of those fourth down conversions was a drop by Craig Reynolds. So outside of that, right, it all comes down to fourth down execution, which we're the best in the NFL, right? The Commanders are also teams to be super aggressive on fourth down. We saw it last week, right, to get their win here. I think it played a pivotal role in them getting that win. As far as that was the most competitive game, right? I mean, I think that them being aggressive like that, like we are, ultimately helped them win that game. And I think they are
Mhm.
going to employ that again. Jaden Daniels. Now I looked up EPA expected win addition based on the play here on fourth down dropbacks. So this is fourth down, definite passing situation essentially. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, Jaden Daniels is number one in the NFL in EPA. Number
Ooh,
one. Who? Yeah, you know who else is on this list? Josh Allen second, Mahomes third, our boy Goff at fourth, fifth Kirk Cousins. So, yeah,
Captain
yeah,
Kirk,
yeah.
even with the
Kirk,
season he had, huh?
Kirk, even in there, man. But look at that company is in four and up, right? In pressure
Mhm.
situations, he has been super clutch this year so far, right? Hail Mary situations, super close games, playoff win last week. So I think, obviously they have their quarterback, and I think if this game is to be close, right, I think their success on those fourth down executions is going to be key for them. But they've got a clutch dude back there.
Yeah. And I mean, usually in a normal situation, Jeffrey, if you got told in the divisional round of the playoffs, you're going up against a rookie quarterback, you're going to put that in the positive column, right? That's
Yeah,
a win for your team. Like, okay,
yeah,
they got a rookie quarterback, we're going to be fine. But I don't think that's the case really here with Jaden Daniels. He's been definitely absolutely looked the part this season.
yep,
He has not shied away from these big moments, like some rookies do struggle. And I know he has been particularly good as ineffective as well against the blitz. And here in the recent weeks, we have been blitzing quite a bit, so it's going to be interesting to see how that chess match plays out between Aaron Glenn and the Commanders here, because knowing that Jaden Daniels does perform very well against the blitz, are we going to continue to dial up the blitz to try and get pressure on him? We have, even though we haven't been generating a ton of sacks, we are one of the teams leading the NFL in pressures with
yeah.
Zadarius Smith
I was
able
getting
to
some
glitch his
flack from my
approach.
coworkers about that this week. They were getting need in the gritty about how we could lose this week. I wore my jersey to work. I was proud. I was a proud Lions fan. I taught in this thing. I got the respect. But yeah, they're telling me like your sack leader is a guy who broke his leg in week 3. I'm like, yeah, but look at those pressure stats though. We made Darnold come falling back to earth and cost the boy almost like $10 million. I'm assuming, right, over the past um, couple weeks here. So I think the play against Sam Darnold was obviously to pressure him, right? But we have to be careful because Jaden Daniels is way more mobile of a quarterback than Sam Darnold is. And yeah, Sam Darnold's going to be kind of a sitting duck because he tends to hold the ball here. But if Jaden Daniels sees an opening, that has been something that we have been weak against. Is a quarterback that can make a quick decision and jackknife us, like
Can
Brock
I have you?
Purdy did to us even last year in the NFC Championship game.
Absolutely. And I think that, you touched on a good thing there. That makes him I think that's what makes him so difficult to defend on fourth downs in particular is the fact that he can, if he's dropping back, he can easily throw for it or he can run for it if things break down. So even if you do have good coverage and you're locking it down, if you're not being able to get home and get him contained, he
Mm-hmm.
can go ahead and just run for it. So it's kind of a difficult spot. And really, I know one of the things looking across the playoffs here, most of your quarterbacks here that are advancing are quarterbacks that are at least semi-mobile. You look at a lot of these guys. So the prototype of the NFL quarterback, at least if you look at these playoffs, does seem to be shifting to where you do need a guy who isn't afraid to be able to run the ball and do it effectively. Obviously, you want them to primarily pass the ball, but it is definitely a big advantage to have a guy who can in those situations take the yardage that the defense is giving them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, if you look at the quarterbacks who are in the playoffs right now, 3 of these guys, I'd argue even 4 of these guys are the like first iteration of the NFL switching to we are going all in if we see someone who can be mobile, improvise, and is a freak athlete, right? I mean, you look Josh Allen, right?
Mhm.
Lamar Jackson breaking Michael Vick records now. Now we're in the next generation of rushing quarterback. Um, Patrick Mahomes was doing video game numbers up until this past couple of years, right? So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
this is definitely, and the one I'd argue too is Jalen Hurts. Although I do have some suspicions when we'll get to that game. I have some suspicions about the
Mhm.
Eagles. We'll talk about that. But you could argue him as far as him being able to mobile and be able to take off and being just a strong like freak athlete, right? So you're absolutely right.
And of course, the two holdouts of the old guard, the traditional pocket passing quarterbacks, are
Yeah,
two quarterbacks the Lions are very familiar with in Jared Goff and of course Matthew Stafford there.
yeah, and really CJ Stroud because he's more of a drop back passer too. So
Mhm.
we're seeing like kind of the two metas of the NFL that are currently getting it done, which is uh, it's interesting. I really like that about kind of like the parallels of going in, and uh I don't know, it's just it's just cool all around. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
Well, I think it does go to show you too that there isn't just one way to build a winning team in the NFL.
Yeah,
And it lends itself to Dan Campbell's philosophy with going forward on fourth down. Like, yes, traditionally, conventionally, you punt and play conservative on fourth down, but it may not be the right thing to do for your team and your situation. So just like that with the quarterbacks, they're I think finding the right quarterback that fits, or even changing your scheme to fit your quarterback and
yeah,
trying instead of trying to like pigeonhole somebody into
yeah,
a strategy or an approach that doesn't work. It doesn't seem to work out a whole lot for teams. So I think the teams
yeah.
that are successful definitely adapt to the players and the personnel they have and play to their strengths and sort of hide their weaknesses. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and all of these teams are able to maximize who they have, kind of thing. Obviously, has some generational talent helps, all the better, right? But you just look at the teams and some of these coaches and who've been doing it for years and who have the stability. I mean, the Ravens are here, the Chiefs are here, Dan Campbell, and really Brad Holmes. We're seeing kind of their first batch of doing this, but I wouldn't be surprised if we continue that success here. Sean McVay, who's basically Sean McVay and Les Snead are doing like mini rebuilds within seasons, which is just insane. It's just it's good stuff. There's a lot of good football teams here that are left into the mix.
absolutely. Now, Jeffrey, I think watching a lot of the media coverage here nationally, I think everyone expects there to probably be one upset, one outcome this week that we don't, wouldn't predict going in. Do you think, looking at the four games this week, do you think the Lions are at the most risk here for the upset?
No, I don't think so. And that could spoil my pick there for everybody. I don't think they are. I think as far as the upset, just by the numbers, I'm looking at like the Ravens and Bills. I think it's gonna be a mix of surprise and like okay, one of these teams had to lose, right? But I think
Mhm.
that's just gonna kind of outshadow any of these other ones. That's just my opinion, though. I don't think.
That game does seem like the most like titanic clash between two
Yes.
guys who have definitely been in that shadow of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and they it does seem like there's a lot to prove there for both of them. But
Yeah.
I definitely think, in echoing what there go Pablo says here tonight, that tonight's game is going to be a pretty phenomenal one here
Mhm.
between these two teams. So looking to see it. And welcome to the show, there go Pablo, and
Yep. Welcome.
certainly wish your team luck as well here. And I definitely know they'll get it settled on the field tonight. So looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Washington, like I got nothing but props and just like admiration for the team, right? Because they complete kind of cultural turnaround, right? Just kind of a whole brand new ownership group here, just brand new, kind of just top down after what they were dealing with as far as dumpster fires goes,
Mhm,
right? Like they have hope here. They're overachieving any kind of expectations we could possibly have had for a rookie quarterback here, right? So, like,
mhm.
it's all good.
Yeah,
It's good. It's good to see it.
I certainly respect who they're a team that's had certainly plenty of talented players come in throughout the years recently, just like the Lions. We had Calvin Johnson, we had Matthew Stafford. We've had there's been no
Oh
shortage
yeah.
of talent on either of these two teams, but they've just been franchises that have been sort of plagued with some just unfortunate outcomes. And
Mhm.
thankfully, I think both of them are proving that they are not like the Jets or the Giants or the
At least at this
Browns,
point, right?
where
We've
yeah, where
all
they're
been there, and we could all head there one day.
well, we can certainly fall back, but I guess it's not fair to put the Giants there because the Giants do have recent Super Bowl victories. But I'm saying not one of those organizations that is just like perpetually getting in their own way and being a dumpster fire. Like is that clown show that's never going to get things figured out. We've both the Commanders and the Commanders are two teams I think that are now showing we are franchises that yes we've had some stuff that hasn't gone our way in the past, but we're now growing and adapting and we're moving the right direction.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's a good thing for both of these teams here. And then of course James, appreciate you stopping by and being here with us. And yeah, I mean we got nothing but love for the Commanders fans and
Yeah,
the Commanders,
absolutely.
and looking forward to a pretty spicy game here tonight.
Yeah,
But
Kevin,
Jeffrey,
I'm a uniform snob, and I do like. I have some like really love uniforms, really hate uniforms, color schemes. Just a big nerd for that kind of stuff. Washington, one of the better color schemes in the NFL. Absolutely.
I like that. I like that. Well, before we get to tonight's game, Jeffrey, which again 8 o'clock, we have a matchup here earlier in the day at 4:30 between the Texans and the Chiefs. Jeffrey,
Mhm.
of course, the Chiefs looking to try and three-peat.
Yes,
The
their season has
Texans,
officially started.
it is their go time.
Yes.
The Texans, on the other hand, Jeffrey, we thought they were kind of a team that was in danger of being old Yellard last week, but they came out and they took it to the Chargers, man, and their defense looked really good in that game. Uh, this could be a battle between defenses, Jeffrey, and I think
Yep.
looking at the games this week, I know weather could potentially impact the games on Sunday, but I think all things considered, I think the Texans and Chiefs could be the lowest scoring game of the week, just based off of these two defenses being the strengths for both of these clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Houston's O line is going to struggle mightily in this game. They've just not been able to put it together. CJ Stroud's rattled at this point, right? I feel like he has to have the best game of his season for them to have a chance of winning in this game. But back to the O line issues, I think because there's so many issues with kind of them protecting Stroud, I think Chris Jones has the potential to be eaten good in this game and just having the Chiefs defense kind of suffocate that. But then on the Houston's defensive side at home, when Houston's playing at home, their defense is fourth in EPA as far as passing defense. So pretty solid. They dropped to 21st on the road. So it doesn't help that they're playing on the road as well here, right? I just think a lot of things have to go right for Houston to win.
Yeah, and we've talked about it when doing pick'ems throughout the year, Jeffrey. But until someone actually comes out and beats the Chiefs,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm inclined to pick the Chiefs. So I think this is Kansas City's game to win. And welcome to the show, Heather Carwayne. Go Kansas City Chiefs there on Facebook.
Hey.
Appreciate you being here with us. And yeah, I think I mean it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Travis Kelce. Yeah, until the Texans can come out here and prove they can beat the Chiefs, I gotta say that it's going to be the Chiefs. Although I did see an interesting fact about the Chiefs, Jeffrey. You talked about the Lions and sort of the nation embracing us, and it's been great that way. The Chiefs are another team this year that has seen quite a bit of growth from support from fans and things like that. And a big part of that has been Taylor Swift, and of course, her joining of Chiefs Nation, or Chiefs Kingdom. I forget exactly what they call themselves. Their fan group.
Chiefties.
Maybe that'll be the new one. But I did see that it's grown by 30 to 40% since she has started attending the Chiefs games.
Oh, by the
that goes back
like
a couple
Chiefs fans. Like estimated Chiefs fans?
Just in like the estimated like
wow
viewership and things like that for
okay
the Chiefs games. So
NFL has a lot of eyes on them on any given week. So a 30% increase of really any team, albeit the best team in the league, right? That's pretty significant.
My father's here to put the curse on the Lions this week.
All right, yeah.
Which works, because if he puts the curse on, that means they're gonna win. So
let's hear it.
Lions
we haven't heard your beautiful voice.
Lions are gonna win by 21.
Oh no! Now he's saying the Lions are gonna win by 21.
Oh,
Lions by 21.
By 21. How many points are the Commanders going to score?
He wants to know how many points are the Commanders going to score.
It's going to be 21-0. It's
going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of like Lions 42-35, Commanders 21.
42-35-21. Okay, so high scoring game, but we take it by a comfortable margin. Okay. Heck yeah, I could see it.
It's gonna be interesting. Be interesting to see how it goes here.
What is your dad? Tell your dad to do a quick rundown, quick picks of all the games, all 4 of them.
All right. Hey, Dad, before you walk away, Jeffrey wants to know, who are your picks for the 4 games? Who you got winning?
Just quick picks. Give us the quick.
Got the Lions.
He's got the Lions.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Texans because the Texans are kind of beat up.
Okay.
And that's the only reason the Chiefs are going to win.
They have not looked good in their wins.
I hope the Rams win.
He's got the Rams.
Okay. I don't think we want anything to do with Philadelphia and Barkley. I don't think we want that. I don't think we want Brown and Smith on the out. I just don't see Detroit's defense liking that.
That's tough. It's a tough matchup.
And then let's pray to God that the Ravens don't win. Because if the Ravens win with King Henry, I mean, yeah. So, but yeah, I got the Ravens.
Okay.
I've got, unfortunately, Kansas City. My mind tells me that Philadelphia is going to win. I don't want them to, but I think Philadelphia is going to win. And then the Lions should win.
All right. So everybody put your money on what opposite of what he said. Synchronized bets.
So now I should just curse all those teams. So they should all now lose.
All right. No, I do actually like his picks for, the rare times. It happens every once in a while. You know how they say clocks are right, twice a year, twice a day.
Twice a day,
yeah. Right. But yeah, I do agree with
better than a clock.
And I hope he didn't just jinx us right there. I've not played Madden. I had some free time. It was a Friday. I'm on a 3-day weekend. And I was like, ooh, I could crack open a Madden. Maybe, see where Detroit looks like in Madden 24 or something. I held strong, everybody. I held strong.
We appreciate you making the sacrifice there. And got some comments to catch up on here. We got James Jones, great take. You're in a different spot. This was supposed to be a rebuild, but Quinn revamped on the run. And certainly it's going to be interesting to see here what the outcome is. But they've done a great job so far. Chiefs Kingdom, confirmed there by Heather Carwayne, the name of the Lion, or the Chiefs fans collectively. And then, check it out. Kurt also still holds the Walton pass and record 5K in one season. Nice. And what else we got here? It only scares me like this is the broken history. Rock Party, just rookie history, NFC Championship thing. It will be a historic run for Jaden Daniels and the Commanders if they can make it through here. So
yeah, I mean, if they beat us, they're going to be my team that I'm going all in on as far as who I'm rooting for. That's for sure.
Now, I guess we should have asked him too who he thinks would win the national championship game. But as pointed out here, he is an Ohio State fan, so there's that.
Oh yeah, he's going to say Ohio State. I think it's going to be Ohio State. That would be my pick.
I think so too. I think they've made it through. And then Jaden gets the ball out quick, less than 3 seconds on some plays. I think that is going to be difficult for the Lions. Again, they've been dialing up a lot of pressure, but he does really good against the blitz. Detroit fan man, welcome to the show.
Yes.
But who is the baby picking? I don't know. We'll have to see
the
who
birthday
Riley,
baby pick.
She was definitely chanting Papa there quite a bit, doing a little bit of screeching. But we'll see if we can get her picks later on. And then last comment, Donald the max contract, probably respect. He was balling.
Yeah, I think that if he would have played well and went out, I think all the respect to him, but the meltdown was fiery and bright, and over an 8-week or 8-day period, which that doesn't look so great. Though I heard some rumors about Darnold going to possibly New Orleans as a potential destination. So something, I guess, to watch there.
Could be interesting. I definitely think there's going to be teams certainly taking a flyer on him because
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Throughout most of the season was pretty spectacular there.
Yeah.
And definitely, from what we saw in the premature celebration, as it's been come to known.
Oh, where they just
his
they
teammates love him.
coronated him.
So yeah. So
I mean,
he's definitely a good locker room.
He doesn't seem like a bad guy. Just he doesn't do well under pressure, as far as not maybe in life, but like in
and to be fair, I mean, this is I think it's the first time in his professional football career anyways that he's been under that type of pressure. Like when he was with the Jets, they were just bad.
Yeah,
he's not been in
Woody
a circumstance
Johnson just being a terrible ass owner.
Yeah, so he's never been in a circumstance before where it's been like you've played well and now you're like trying to take that next step. So maybe if he gets another shot to do that, he'll do better this next time around. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, he's definitely, from when he left the Jets, right, at the end of that whole thing, right, basically left for dead as far as career-wise. But like to be in this situation 3 years later, right, it's good for him on the comeback.
Absolutely. Well, you don't necessarily need to call it a comeback, Jeffrey, because Matthew Stafford was playing rather well when he was with the Detroit Lions, but he did get his Super Bowl win after being traded to the Rams. The Rams will be heading tomorrow, Jeffrey, to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. That game is at 3:00. What are your thoughts here about this Rams-Eagles matchup?
Yeah, it's impressive what the Rams do as far as retooling themselves and making themselves an actual threat every year, regardless. I mean, they just lost Aaron Donald, and they got themselves to pick up an aggregate that's enough, right? And it looks like they have themselves a really good talent there in Jared Verse here, but just doing this, like, it takes teams years to do this, or at least a year, right? People talk about a 1-year rebuild or like a gap year kind of thing, but like they're not about that. They're about trying to get to that championship almost every year, right? And they hit on their draft picks even wherever they end up at. I think I'm talking them up now, but I don't know if it's going to actually happen here. We've got to start with positives here, right? But I
got to build them up before you tear them down.
Yeah, but like you can't discount kind of what they've done this season, right? Looking like almost like sellers at the trade deadline here, but then now, right, gotten themselves already a playoff win here and going into Philadelphia. But I think it's going to be difficult for the line overall because yes, Jared Verse had been huge this season, and even in the past week with his touchdown return here, so they got himself scoring. I think it's going to be hard because the Eagles are kind of at the height of their power as far as talent and their offensive line, really, because even though Kelsey did leave, they still have one of the better offensive lines in the league here, right? So I think it's going to be, I think we're going to finally see where there's going to be a talent gap, on that, like in the trenches.
Yeah, and it's also, I think something that'll impact this game, Jeffrey, is the weather. Matthew Stafford is 0-2 in the snow in the playoffs. And of course, as you get older with age, and he's been playing out there in LA, his body has adapted to the warmer climate. The cold isn't going to be doing him any favors, so that could certainly impact.
He did exercise a demon. He got didn't he get that win in New England this year for the first time in his career?
He did. Yeah, he did.
So I mean, hey,
and hey, honestly, when you look at the quarterbacks and the coaching combos here, Matt Stafford and Sean McVay, outside of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, are the only QB head coach combo to not only have a Super Bowl appearance to their name, but also have a Super Bowl victory. So,
yeah,
I mean, one of two Super Bowl winning quarterbacks here in the divisional round. Can't count them out.
No,
but it does seem like it would be a upset if they are able to go in here and get the win against the Eagles. To your point, Jeffrey, I think the Eagles, of course, they're the number 2 seed. The season Saquon Barkley has had running the ball. At times, the success they've had throwing the balls, despite all of the behind the scenes drama and book reading that occurs on the sidelines. It seems like this really should be a game the Eagles should win, but definitely Matt Stafford and the Rams, you just can't count them out.
Yeah, and another thing to note before I start talking about the offense, because I feel like there's some vibe issues on the offense, but on the defense though, Vic Fangio with the Eagles and Brian Flores have been known to bully McVay teams in the past. Not necessarily meaning they're getting the win, but as far as like production and what they're able to do and scheme wise, it's going to be difficult to, I think, overcome that. I think Stafford needs to have one of his psycho mode games, kind of thing, where he's like just like locked in. The blitz doesn't matter. He's getting the ball out in like a second, kind of thing. No, you know what I mean. Some vintage Stafford stuff we have seen on many occasions for. I think he's got to be lights out. But on Philadelphia's offensive side, and where I think, I guess, is what I question is their running game's fantastic. They have a great offensive line. Saquon Barkley, obviously had fantastic season here. I just don't know what to make about the passing game at this point. They have a lot of talent there, right? Obviously, and we've seen them be good at times, but they have not had to be tested with having to be having to utilize, right, AJ Brown and all these players, right, that are kind of like, they've got a lot of talent on that side of the ball. And I just don't know. I feel like there is way more behind that just like absolute collapse last year, right? This is Philadelphia. You come into a game ready to play every game, and last year you show up so like so terribly. Obviously, they took care of business last week, but I don't know. There's just something there with that. I feel like there's the team's being more run by the coordinators than the coach. That could just be me being like vibe checking them and not checking out, right? But yeah, I feel like
Nick
we've not seen
Sirianni
enough.
hater there.
I am. No offense to the Eagles fan, but I just to me that there are just some question marks with what they can do in the passing game.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. I mean, again, the weather may limit the Rams' ability to do it, but if the Rams could get out to an early lead and force them to, have to throw their way to win the game, it certainly would be interesting because they have this season definitely transitioned to being a team that relies heavily on Saquon Barkley in that running game to get wins. So they usually get a lead and then they let Saquon, especially in the second half, sort of pound the other team into submission. So if they are having to play catch up as opposed to being able to sort of set the pace for the game in that second half, that would be an interesting way and could potentially be the key there for the Rams to get the victory. And then you mentioned, Stafford having to be on point here, going Super Saiyan against them, perhaps. And certainly, if he does that, I know the Eagles secondary has been very good this season. But they're going up against Puka Nacua, who is not only is he a very talented receiver, but tackling that man seems to be impossible.
He's a difficult man to bring down.
If I had to choose one player in the NFL, like if someone was like, "Hey, I'll give you $1 million if you can tackle an NFL receiver," I would not choose Puka Nacua because I would get like knocked out in a concussion. He would be my absolute last pick because he is just a menace. So if Stafford can get going, and particularly if he can find Puka and have him just sort of, beat up on the DBs there for the Eagles.
Yeah,
that could be a spicy thing for him.
Yeah, seeing some former Lions players in that secondary, Slay and Gardner Johnson out there. So
maybe he'll put the mask back on and be out there.
Yeah, yeah, Brett on the mask. Is it a cold game? It's supposed to be cold.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a chance for snow and weather. Let's see, weather in Philly.
Yeah, because I think
tomorrow is 35 and snow, 75% chance of the precipitation. So it's going to be interesting. All right. Jeffrey, who do you think ends up winning this battle between the
Oh,
Eagles and the Rams?
despite me dunking on the Eagles' offense on as far as me not understanding or at least vibe check not checking out, I do still think the Eagles are going to win because they have more just talent overall, and I think I think that big matchup is that line, and I think the offensive line is going to eat in this game, and that's just going to really, when your line is cooking, it's it's pretty hard to stop it when you're winning in the trenches, and I think they will.
Yeah, I think I also am going to lock in the Eagles here again. I definitely recognize there's a path to victory for the Rams, and I don't want to count out Sean McVay, Stafford, and this defense too that has been playing very well for the Rams. But ultimately, uh, I just think the Eagles, I give them the edge there and sort of expect them to get the win. But
Yeah.
Rams certainly could. It would definitely not. I think the most surprising upset would be Houston over the Chiefs. That one
Yeah.
would be the biggest one for me this weekend. So seeing the Rams beat the Eagles wouldn't be a huge surprise, but at the same time, I definitely like the Eagles to get the win. And then Bruce Farms, welcome to the show here on YouTube.
Welcome.
Redskin fan, knows the game will be tough. But what is up with all this 45-17 predictions from Lions fans I'm seeing all over the comments section?
Yeah, I wouldn't pick that big of a spread.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely going to be a closer game. And if the Lions do score 45, I would, I would think the Commanders would be much closer to that 45 number, not that far away. I don't
38
see
to 45 win or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something a little closer like that. Not something with I don't think there's that huge of a gap between these two teams, but we'll get to our picks later.
Yeah, as of right now, they're 8.5 favorites now, so that's just beyond a one-score game by half a point. So,
absolutely. All right, Jeffrey. The last game of the weekend to talk about here is the Sunday night game between the Ravens and the Bills. Like we've talked
Titanic
about, perhaps the best matchup of the weekend here, as these two teams square off for the right to, as we think, challenge the Chiefs for supremacy in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts here about this Ravens-Bills matchup, Jeffrey?
Yeah, this is the MVP candidate be MVP candidate here, division round. So what's not to love about it, right? 1.5 point spread between these. So, right, even Vegas is like, this is going to be close here. But there's a 25% chance of snow. So there is a chance for it to be, weather factor, but both of these teams built for the outside. They play outside.
But Josh Allen does have some pretty ridiculous stats in the snow. So where Stafford struggles in the snow, it helps Josh Allen tap into a whole new power set.
It's like Russia when you try to invade them, it just is there's snowstorm. Right. Yeah, it says 25%, and then it's going to be like Orchard Park gets hit with like a freak blizzard right before the game. Yeah,
I would be fans to come out and snow shovel again.
Yeah, there's it's going to be a very good game. I think I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit here. I think there's going to be a lot of hot taking going on after this game too. I think it's going to be a great game, and it's going to be really disappointing for the quarterback, obviously, who loses, because they're in the midst of an MVP season and it's divisional round, and they're not even close to being guaranteed to a Super Bowl chance here, right? And that's what both of these organizations are vying for on a year-to-year basis. So it's going to be disappointing for one of these, but there's allegations about Lamar Jackson, him not playing well in the playoffs, right? So there are some of that out there, but I just have to point out that in his first 7 years here, he has had more playoff wins and has better stats than Peyton Manning in his first 7 years. So if Lamar Jackson, or even Josh Allen for that matter, loses this weekend, like, let's cool it with like the legacy is broken kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fair. People like to sort of jump the shark there and make it seem
to me, it's just so annoying, because it's like, yeah, championships are great, but like, come on, let a season breathe. Let some of these eras and contemporary things we're seeing now breathe. We're seeing contemporary greatness right now. Let's enjoy it.
And yeah, enjoy. Don't poo-poo it while it's here.
Yeah, right.
Recognize it and celebrate it.
Yeah.
Don't make it bad. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting here, Jeffrey. Again, it's kind of surprising that neither of these two quarterbacks, and Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, have a Super Bowl appearance to their credit. So yeah, it's interesting here. Of course, the Chiefs have been the thorn in both of these teams' sides. Uh, Especially, well, they've been the thorn in everyone's side because they're going for the three-peat, really. But we are unfortunately at that point of the season where it does end, for only one team is it going to end with their fan base being happy. For everybody else, it is going to be that heartbreak and disappointment. So it's
Now I will say, I did just say cool it with the legacy talk. I say that because Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are in their primes. They're both 28 years old and going into this game. However, Justin Tucker is at the end of his career, and we're looking at a legendary player here who has had a pretty awful statistical year, right? Like he's fell off a cliff. If he costs them points in this game, I could definitely be like, yes, people are going to remember this because like it was such an epic collapse.
Would you say, Jeffrey, it could cost him his legacy?
I think it could hamper his legacy.
Certainly going to be interesting. And, we had been talking earlier, Jeffrey, about the potential of him. Oh, thank you. I wonder what you brought me here. I think it's chocolate. But we were talking earlier about, his struggles and if they needed to make a move at the kicker position. They've stuck by him here. So it's going to be interesting to see here in one of the biggest spots of the season if he can come through and be that clutch kicker that the Ravens have known and relied on for several seasons now.
Yeah. Over under on whether he will attempt a 60-plus yard field goal in this game.
Ooh.
Will we see an attempt from the greatest kicker of all time?
I mean, I could definitely see it at like the end of the first half. Like
if they're like 65 yards, like, yeah, just boot that shit.
The clock's going to run out anyways. Just let them kick it. Yeah. I can see it.
I wonder what the record is in the NFL for a kick, because he's got it in the regular season, obviously, that against us. God, that's but yeah, we can break that record too.
Maybe he goes for like a 70-yarder just to solidify that legacy.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Yeah.
All right, Jeffrey. Well, I know it's going to be a tough matchup between this Ravens and Bills team, but who do you have ultimately here to get the win between these two teams?
I think it's going to come down to the kicking game, because there is another parallel in this, in that the Bills kicker,
Tyler Bass,
missed himself a very important kick to get them out of the playoffs last year. And I think it's going to come down to something of a kick game mishap or block for this. But I'm going to take
block.
I like the block, but I'm going to go with the Bills at home, giving them the home edge. But it's a very hard decision.
Going with Josh Allen, and I like it. I like it. This is a tough one here. I'm really not sure who to go with between the Ravens.
It's tough because like the Ravens can almost hit you with anything if one of their avenues doesn't work, right? If the passing game's not going, they literally can just, we're just going to give it to the king himself, and he's going to just like send DBs into the shadow realm on his way to the end zone, right? If Lamar is not having a good day on the ground and in the air, right? And if Lamar Jackson, he's just like, he makes all world plays on a week-to-week basis. So, but same thing could be said for Josh Allen. So this is a tough one.
It is a tough one. And I do think I'm going to ultimately, not that I didn't like Derrick Henry is a great point in the Ravens. But I am going to go with the Bills too. And the reason is because one of the things this season that has been helping the Bills get wins is Jared Cook and this running game that they've sort of introduced this season and found. Traditionally it's kind of been all on Josh Allen and his shoulders to get the wins here. But Jared Cook and it is Jared Cook, right? Am I forgetting his first name wrong?
Yeah, Dalvin Cook's
brother, Jared.
His older brother.
I think it's Jared Cook. Yeah, I think
yeah.
There was also a tight end named Jared Cook. But
Yeah.
anyway, regardless, they can have the same name. I think
Time is
Jared
a player,
Cook,
yeah.
the running game for the Bills, I think introducing that here and not making things so reliant on Josh Allen. And of course, then you also have to worry about him running the ball too. I think that'll help give them the edge, especially if it does, that 25% chance for precipitation does happen and he's out there and it's a snowy game.
Yeah.
I think the Bills, I'll take them too. Again,
Yeah.
wouldn't be this game. I think like the betting odds show is probably the closest one. So really, I wouldn't be surprised by either outcome. But if you're forcing me to pick a name, I'm picking the Bills to get the win.
Yeah, and I think maybe if when the Bills win, it'll be good coordination as a Josh Allen MVP campaign here this year.
He's having himself a banner year. Got engaged, potentially gets that MVP award.
Yes,
moves
could
on to
possibly
take
get the
on
hardware to go with it. It's
could it be the first year that he beats the Chiefs? But then we run into that matchup that you don't want for the Super Bowl, Jeffrey. So
yes, I don't want the spooky matchup. Give me the Eagles. Give me the Chiefs. Give me the Bills. Do not. Or no, wait, no, don't give me the Bills. That's what I'm saying. Give me the Ravens. I don't want
Scott Talley here is saying the Ravens all day, so hopefully you're not going to see too many key players that produce there for the Ravens side.
Yeah.
All right, Jeffrey. I think all that's left to do here, Jeffrey, is to make our selections for the Commanders and Lions game. And I think, we've made kind of where we're leaning pretty clear throughout the show. And of course, we've been drinking that Kool-Aid pretty hard. But you know what? It has been deserved this season.
Yes.
And so I'll lock in first here, Jeffrey. I'm going to go with the Lions to get the victory. I definitely don't think it's going to be a 45-17 type deal like Bruce Farms, who's been seeing in some of the comment sections. But ultimately, and Jeffrey, you mentioned the kicking game being an impactful thing here for the Ravens and the Bills. I think that could also play a factor here with the Commanders and the Lions. The Commanders have had multiple different kickers throughout the season. Zane Gonzalez did hit the game winner last week, but it was the divisional doink, as Chris Collinsworth referred to it there. And you could definitely tell he was nervous heading out there. Whereas, you got Jake Bates out there rolling around on softballs. He's just ready, just ready to win games, baby.
America's thirst trap sweetheart, Jake Bates.
I think the Lions get things done here. I could see maybe them winning on like a 45-42 last second, hold on the game, ice it with a field goal type deal. I definitely think this could be a more of a high scoring game because I do think both the offenses are going to kind of lead the way here for both teams in today's game. So, yeah, I'm thinking Lions get the W. How about you here, Jeffrey? Who you locking in?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's going to be a blowout as these people are saying, as Bruce has experienced. I agree with you that kicking will be relevant, and with the struggles, these are the moments where you don't want to be at the question mark for your kicker, right? So I think that's definitely a negative for that, but I don't think it's going to be that blowout. I think I'm going to go with 31-24 Detroit with the win. I don't think it's going to be decided in the first half by any means, right? I think it's going to go well into the third quarter, and then we are just able to kind of control the time of possession and get that kind of second score to kind of get us out of there.
I like the pick, Jeffrey. I like the pick. And I also like all of the participation and everybody we've had joining in today. We've had people from YouTube, Facebook, we've had Twitch. So, of course, you can find us all on those platforms too, and definitely appreciate everyone's support. And let me take a look here, Jeffrey, because I know we have the goal of reaching 100 subscribers by the end of the season here on the Lions Grid YouTube page, and we are up to 78 subscribers, Jeffrey.
Right.
So we need 22 more to hit that 100 mark. So if you do enjoy the show and want to help our channels grow, if you could head over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, we really do appreciate it. And again, thanks everybody for spending this Saturday morning with us.
Yeah, appreciate it. One thing I forgot to mention: we got Tom Brady on the horn as our color announcer.
Now, how do you feel about that, Jeffrey? Is it potential collusion as Las Vegas is threatening to throw the bag at Ben Johnson to come be their head coach?
I mean, I do know Tom Brady is actively interviewing head coaching candidates for for his team because he's got stake in it, right?
Mhm.
Also, right, calling the game because calling this playoff, yes, I do, right? I feel like conflict of interest is there. I don't know. I just, all I'll say is in a few days, rules just, rules are rules. You just sometimes in the NFL, right? Just follow them. If the rules are there, just follow them. That's all I'll say.
I think there's a lot of the breaking that goes on behind the scenes, anyways, and then they just sort of like selectively choose when they want to enforce it. So, it is what it is, but
I think the
definitely
key, I think the
interesting
real,
dynamic there.
I think the real correlating factor is the amount of money that they have. I don't know. I might be wrong there, but that would be my guess.
Well, that just echoes the rest of life. Then rules apply until you hit a certain income bracket,
Dollar
and
limit, right? Because I
then,
mean,
then
they're giving Tom Brady $30 million to sit in the booth to talk about this. At the same time, they're like, the rules don't apply to people who are in those kind of circles with that kind of money. So,
absolutely, absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, I did see something interesting, Jeffrey. What are your thoughts before we do sign off here? I did see that potentially Ben Johnson could look to bring Hendon Hooker with him in a potential trade deal should he move on as the head coach and he goes to a team
interesting.
that does not have a uh, solid starter there. What are your thoughts about that?
My thoughts is that they either think highly of him, just in general. They think highly of him in that if he wants to get in there and have somebody who's his guy, especially a quarterback guy, offensive guy, that's his guy in there. I think he'd be like. I think that'd be a good idea if I was going over there. Selfishly, though, don't want to get rid of him because, right? What if he's good? He could be our
Yeah.
backup.
I mean, that was sort of the idea that hey, you bring him here, let him sort of have time to grow behind Jared Goff, and then potentially he could be our next QB. But
Yep.
depending on what Hall is offered to get him from us, I mean, Jared Goff definitely is not showing signs of slowing down at this point. So, we still may have time to find another guy that can be that rookie to learn behind Jared Goff before we actually need to make the switch. So,
Yeah.
Again, I'd have to see what the actual trade would be, but is kind of interesting in there the idea that Ben Johnson likes Hendon Hooker so much that he'd be willing to trade for him to bring him along with him as his QB.
Yeah. I think they always, how their coach speak in the preseason where they're like, we're having a QB battle, right? Every position's up for grabs. When they're like, no, like Aaron Donald is going to start. There ain't no positions up for grabs, kind of thing. But you know how they go through that. Like I would be surprised if Hendon Hooker didn't end up being the second or even starter there, just based on what they have now at quarterback. So
yeah, they are. It's definitely a mess out there in Vegas. So
yeah,
if it's kind of weird because Ben Johnson has turned down other potential opportunities to go be a head coach somewhere. So I'm curious if Las Vegas. I mean, obviously, I know they've brought in Brady as a partial owner there, but it's still is it Al? No, Al Davis is the dad. What is the son?
Mark Davis.
Mark Davis. It's still Mark Davis is the primary owner out there, and
Mhm.
you can kind of see a little bit of that flaring there. I don't think he's as bad as Jerry Jones, but still the Davises are known to be difficult owners to work with. So it's like, really, is Vegas the team that you're gonna? So we'll see. Nothing's set in stone, but first things first, they got to take care of business here against the Commanders this evening. And Jeffrey, as always, we'll leave today's episodes with a Go Lions.
Go Lions, everybody! Thanks for joining us, and let's go out and get that win tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. William Jacob coming in. We got to win. We go to win tonight. Hopefully,
Yeah, we
we'll be
do.
able to come back and celebrate a Lions victory, Jeffrey.
Oh.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll
Bye,
catch you during
everybody.
the next episode. Bye-bye.